What's up, YouTube? My name is Matt Modi. I am a content producer and betting analyst for oddsjam.com. And first of all, I appreciate everybody tuning in to my first official video on my new YouTube channel, just dedicated to me. Obviously, I'll still be doing a ton of work on the OddsJam YouTube channel, so obviously make sure you are subscribed and everything to that. But while you are here, would appreciate it if you could subscribe to my new YouTube channel as well. And then, of course, like and comment on this video and all the future videos as well to help me grow this one as well. But for this video, I figured it would make sense to talk about how I've used OddsJam to profit over the 20K amount that I'm currently profiting with OddsJam. So in future videos, I'll go over a ton of different educational stuff about me, about OddsJam, about sports betting in general, probably some sports analysis in there as well. Maybe some other random nonsense, as you can see from my background. Eagles flag, also got a Star Wars flag, also have, or a Star Wars poster, also have a Naruto poster. So a bunch of different nonsense that I'll probably get into. But for this video specifically, just gonna teach you the ins and outs of how I personally, my personal strategy of how I have used OddsJam to profit over 20K. So let's get right into it. Let me go ahead and share my screen. So what you see on the screen here, let me zoom in a little bit, is the OddsJam positive expected value page. So I will get into all of this and what all of these different numbers and stuff mean. First things first, let me take you to my bet tracker. So OddsJam actually just put up a ton of new features with the bet tracker. So if you've watched me on previous videos and don't recognize what you're seeing, it's because we've released some new features. Number one being this sweat station. Really cool. You just click into a day and it'll tell you like your settled bets. It'll tell you your profit on that given day, any upcoming bets, stuff like that. You can also sync your sportsbooks directly with OddsJam. So all of the bets and the information that you see here certifiably linked to all of the sportsbooks that you see on the right here. So can't fudge a lot of these numbers. So if you scroll down a little bit, you will see the profit over time and then a bunch of different information. So right off the bat, you see the total profit being just under 22K. So I just hit that mark of over 20K, which is very, very exciting for me. I've been using OddsJam. Week 1 was the first week of NFL season of the 2021 season. So at the time I'm recording this, which is January of 2023, I've been using OddsJam for about a year and a half, 2 full football seasons. So the profit over time is a cool graph that I like to show because it just shows, exactly what it sounds like, profit over time. And this is by week, as you can see up here. So as you can see, significantly more up weeks than down weeks, but there are some down weeks in there as well. Some pretty big, down 1,600 one week, down 1,600 another week. There are also some weeks where I'm up a lot, up 2,800 one week, up 2,500 another week. So you can kind of see the ebbs and flows as it comes with sports betting. Even though using OddsJam in the positive EV page, you have an edge on every single play that you make. Doesn't mean you're going to win every single bet. Doesn't mean that you're going to profit every single week, month, year, stuff like that. And if you look at my monthly numbers using OddsJam, once this loads, a ton of data being processed here, but I've only had 3 down months since I've been an OddsJam user. And that's really good. I've been using it for like 18 months or so, only having 3 down months. That's really good. Obviously, we see a ton more up months. And then in terms of my bankroll, and I'll talk about kind of my journey with my bankroll, and then I'll get into my strategy itself. So bear with me here a little bit. I do think that the background and everything is important. So when I first started using OddsJam, I started with a $500 bankroll. So I didn't really know what I was doing. I was new to the software. I was new to like profitable sports betting. Prior to that, I had just been placing bets without really any type of edge like this. So I started small. My first month profited $850. So basically I profited $350 over my initial investment. That's really good. Then I upped my bankroll a little bit, upped it to $750. The next month profited like $2,000. Again, that's really good. I had a light month in October because I took a 2-week vacation where I wasn't sports betting at all. So the 343 was still with the 750 bankroll, but obviously the success wasn't as good, but the volume wasn't there as well. Continued to have a ton of success, up 2,700, up 2,200. Didn't bet a ton in January because I was in a non-legal betting state for most of that, which is why these numbers are down a little bit. Same thing with February, didn't have a ton of success, but eventually February is when I started with oddsjam full time. That's also when I decided to increase my bankroll. So I went from 500 to 750 to 1,000, which is where it's at in this video, or excuse me, when I started working with oddsjam full time, which again was in February. Had a decent March. Unfortunately, the next 3 out of the next 4 months were down. That coincided with baseball season where I was struggling to figure out a baseball strategy, which I did figure out towards the end of the month, which is why August was good, why September was good as well. And then when football season started, I decided to up my bankroll again to where it sits now, where I have 1 unit equals $100. And this has been my bankroll since September of 2022. So basically the beginning of football season of this past year. As you can tell, with my increased bankroll, ton of success. Haven't had a down month yet. September up 3K. October up 2.3K. November up 2.9 and December up 3.1. Have had a ton of success since I increased my bankroll. Haven't had any down months either. I'm sure that will come, but very exciting stuff. So right now where my bankroll currently sits, 1 unit equals $100. And that part's important because unit sizing is incredibly important when it comes to sports betting. So that's kind of my background. Hopefully people found this interesting. But in terms of my strategy, let's get into this now. And for those of you that are familiar with positive EV betting, a lot of this you might already know, but I'm going to try and dumb it down as much as possible for the people that might be new that are watching this. So positive expected value betting. The literal definition of positive expected value is when you are betting on a play that has a higher percent chance of occurring than the reflected odds of what the sportsbook is offering. And I know that's a mouthful, so I'll break it down each piece to hopefully make more sense. So let me say the definition again. You're betting on a play that you know as the sports bettor has a higher percent chance of occurring than the reflected odds that the sportsbook is offering. So basically, we're betting on plays that we know have a higher percent chance of hitting than the sportsbooks are giving us odds at. So the way I like to personally describe positive expected value betting is just with a coin flip. So when you flip a coin, you generally think 50-50, right? Obviously 50% heads, 50% tails. Let's pretend that the coin that we are flipping is actually weighted towards heads 55%. So it's going to land on heads 55% of the time as opposed to 50% of the time. So it's going to be 55 heads, 45 tails. I know that I'm flipping a weighted coin. The person I'm placing the bet with, they don't know that. So they still think it's 50-50. That's kind of how positive expected value betting is. We're flipping a coin that we know is going to hit at a higher rate than the typical 50-50 odds. So if you're betting, right, if I'm flipping that coin, I'm going to bet on heads every single time. I know it's going to land on heads 55% of the time. Clearly, that makes it the better bet. Unfortunately, that also means 45% of the time you're going to be wrong. If it lands on tails 3 times in a row, unlikely, yes. Does it mean that you made the incorrect bet, the bad bet? No, it just means that you had bad luck. That can happen with sports betting. You can place 10 bets that are incredible, have bad luck, lose 6 of them. That's just the nature of the game. But so, again, to go back to the definition, we're placing a bet that we know has a higher percent chance of hitting. So in this case, the 55% weighted towards heads than the reflected odds that the sportsbook is offering. And that in that case is the 50% that they think that the coin is going to land heads and tails, 50%. So the next question you're going to ask is, okay, that's all good and fun, but how do we know as the sports bettor what percent chance a bet is going to hit? How do you know? It's a really good question. So that's exactly what I will get into. So we're looking at a random play here. Dylan Brooks over 2.5 assists. The positive EV play is bolded. It's got the blue rectangle around it at plus 115 odds. So right off the bat, If you're looking at the positive EV page and you're unsure of what bet to place, it's going to be the one that's bolded. It's going to be the one that has the blue rectangle around it. So Dylan Brooks, over 2.5 market player assists, books plus 115 odds at PointsBet. So everything when it comes to sports betting, and especially the positive EV page, is going to be derived from these no vig odds that you see here. And I'll explain exactly what those mean. When we see plus 103, that's what the no vig odds are. So when it comes to sports betting, I clicked into this play, and right now what we see is where every sportsbook is pricing the over-under for Dylan Brooks in his assist market. Over 2.5, under 2.5. We're playing the over, right? Over 2.5, bolded rectangle around it. We'll look at where the rest of the markets price this play. We see odds from plus 115 all the way down to minus 115. The same exact play, no difference between the plays, but we're getting the difference of 30 cents of odds. So right off the bat, you've learned two things. Number one of these sportsbooks has to be right and one of these sportsbooks has to be wrong. They can't be 30 cents apart and both be the accurate representation of this Dylan Brooks market, right? One of them has to be right, one of them has to be wrong, or they're both wrong and the truth is somewhere in the middle. Regardless, they both can't be right. An example I like to give is kind of regarding the stock market, and let's pretend exchange has Amazon stock at $1,000 a share. Another one has them at $800 a share. They both can't accurately reflect the market of Amazon stock. One has to be right, one has to be wrong, or the truth is somewhere in the middle, and they're both wrong. Regardless, they both can't be right. It's the same thing with sports betting. Sportsbooks are kind of like the stock market in that the odds go as the money comes in. So more money comes in one way, that's going to become more expensive. The other side of it becomes less expensive. So with that thought in mind, and this is the second part, there are some sportsbooks that are consistently better than others at pricing odds. It's as simple as that. Some sportsbooks over the course of time are historically better than other sportsbooks at pricing odds. Just like there are reputable stock exchanges that you respect, there are reputable sportsbooks that accurately reflect markets better than others. Now, there's a ton of reasons why that's the case. I can get into that a little bit. Basically, the reason is some sportsbooks just accept more money. They have higher limits. They also accept bets from a larger group of people, I should say. Sharp sportsbooks, they don't have limits, so they accept more money, and their odds more accurately reflect the market. It's kind of as simple as that. So what oddsjam did, and why the positive expected value betting tool is so powerful, is they back-tested thousands and thousands and thousands of previous betting opportunities. Basically saying, okay, if there are sportsbooks that are consistently better than others, let's do the research and find out what those sharp sportsbooks are. Instead of just being like, hey Google, who are the sharp sportsbooks? Or, oh, a buddy told me that this sportsbook is the sharpest. No, they tracked thousands and thousands of betting opportunities over a large sample of time and used that data to tell them, oh, actually these 5, 7, whatever sportsbooks consistently are the best at pricing odds. So instead of trying to be smarter than the sportsbooks, and we're basically just using the sportsbooks against each other, saying, okay, if these 5 are consistently the best at pricing odds, how about we take those 5 odds, or those 5 books, remove the vig, which is the juice that sportsbooks price odds. That's how sportsbooks make money. They charge juice. And collect those odds and then use a weighted average to basically come up with the true line of the market. And that's exactly what these no vig odds are pulling from. They're pulled from the sharpest sportsbooks in the world with using a weighted average. So if there are 5 that are really good, but one's better than others, that's going to have heavier weight. And then basically saying, okay, if these sportsbooks think that it's priced one way, if we can get better odds, and better odds just means higher payout, so like better for us as the sports bettor, then that's going to be profitable. The true line of this Dylan Brooks play is at plus 103. We are getting it 12 cents higher at plus 115. The true line of this should be priced closer to plus 115. plus 103. The true line of this is at plus 103. We're betting it at plus 115. So to go back to the definition of positive expected value betting, we are placing bets that we, as the sports bettor, know have a higher percent chance of occurring than the reflected odds of the sports book. So we know, as a sports bettor, that this should be priced at plus 103. That's the true line. PointsBet is offering this at plus 115. The reflected odds of the sports book is higher than plus 103. Higher equals more money, equals good for us. So that's kind of the definition of positive expected value. Now, when you are using the positive EV page, you can click into these filters, and there's a ton of different options. So number one is these recommended filters. For me personally, I almost solely place bets with these recommended filters button selected, right? Like you can select it. Basically, the easiest way to describe it is the recommended filters provide the best of the best positive expected value bets. Now, obviously, if the bet's positive EV, you're going to have an edge. With the recommended filters on, it gives you the best of the best. And that means there's some markets themselves that are a little bit, have higher variance that might not, that don't show up on the recommended filters. Another thing the recommended filters does is it only provides betting opportunities that are true outliers compared to the rest of the market. And this is the next step when it comes to positive EV betting. So that Dylan Brooks one went away. Unfortunately, odds change all the time. It's important to move quick when you are sports betting. But here's a new play. It's really, really good. Oakland versus Youngstown State, under 71.5 first half points. Bolded, blue rectangle around it saying, bet me. PointsBet is offering this at plus 110. The Novig odds are offering this at minus 106. So pretty massive gap right off the bat between these two numbers. But before I personally even think about placing a bet, what I do is whenever you hover over a play and you see how it gets highlighted blue, if you just click your mouse, it pulls up where every sportsbook is pricing odds for this play. And what I am trying to do before placing a bet is make sure that the bet that I am placing is truly and clearly an outlier compared to every other book. And what I mean by this is compare the odds of the bet you're placing, in this case, first half under 71.5, which is at plus 110 odds, and compare that to every other sports book and where they're pricing odds at. So, okay, let's compare the plus 110 to every other book, including the sharp ones. So I mentioned that there's some sports books better than others. Pinnacle Sportsbook is generally regarded as the sharpest sportsbook in the world. So when I am comparing odds, I look at Pinnacle first. So Pinnacle has the under at minus 112. They have the over at minus 108. So we see how there's like a gap between these two numbers, right? Minus 112 and minus 108. That's the juice that sportsbooks price odds. Pinnacle charges juice as well. They just generally charge less. But we notice that they're charging more juice towards the under. The under is priced at minus 112. The over is priced at minus 108. They think the under is more likely, so they're making it more expensive to buy. That's what it means when you're comparing both sides of the line. Whatever side is more expensive to buy, that's the side that the sportsbook is telling you, we think this is more likely. Because we think it's more likely, we're going to make you pay a little bit more money for it. BetOnline is another very sharp sportsbook. They have the same thing. They have the under priced at minus 125, the over priced at plus 105. There's a huge gap between both sides of where BetOnline prices this market, which is them telling you they're heavily favoring the under. DraftKings has it at minus 115 each way. That's equal amount of juice on each side. That is DraftKings telling you they don't know what side is more likely, so they're just making it 50-50 outcome. They're making it equal juice on each side, which is them saying they don't know what's more likely. They think it's 50-50. BetMGM has the under at minus 110, the over at minus 120. So they're favoring the over, but still not nearly to the point that PointsBet is. So to answer the question, is this an outlier? Absolutely, yes. We're getting it for plus 110 odds, which means that plus money means that if you win half of your bets at plus money, then you are profiting, because plus 110 means you risk 100 to profit 110. So the payout is higher than the risk. That's what plus money means. Well, two of the books and the sharp ones, actually favor the under. Another book has it at 50-50. And then one book slightly favors the over, but the 3 on that do favor it, that favor the under or have it at 50-50 obviously is the majority. And it's still not as being heavily juiced as the points bet line. So to answer the question, this is absolutely an outlier. And the reason why that's important, you just kind of have to think about it in like a logical scenario. If you're just looking at it blindly, you don't know anything about sports, you're just looking at this blindly. One sportsbook is clearly an outlier in where they have this priced. That means that they probably have the incorrect price. If every other sportsbook is in some sort of agreement that the under shouldn't be that heavily favored, well, that's just PointsBet having a mispriced line. And that happens all the time with sports betting. Not all sportsbooks update their lines quickly enough, which gives you the opportunity of finding a profitable bet. Another way to think about it is, let's just pretend we're buying this market of the under 71.5 points. There are 5 markets, excuse me. All 4 of them have it priced one way. The 5th one has it significantly cheaper than the other 4. What's more likely? Again, that these 4 are incorrect, or that the one that has it significantly cheaper than the rest of the sports books, that one's incorrect. And because it's incorrect in our favor, that makes it a really good bet because we're getting higher payout. So I do that for every single bet that I place. I click into the markets. I say, okay, is this bet I'm placing truly an outlier to every single book? If so, I will bet. If not, I won't. Here's one that I did lock in. Plus 135 odds is my bet. Looking at every other book, plus 114, plus 120, plus 122, plus 116. All of them have it priced pretty significantly below this plus 135 number, making it a good bet. And I literally just go through the positive EV page. I click into every single play, and if it's good, I'll bet it, and if it's not, I won't. So I get a lot of questions. Do you place every single bet that you see on the screen? The answer is no. If it's not a good outlier, then I will avoid it. I try to be as selective as possible. Another question I get is, how many bets should I be placing in a given day? And the answer is always, the more equals merrier. If you have, let's pretend, $100 to bet with, it's better for you. You'll have higher payout if you place 10 bets at $10 versus 2 bets at $50. The reason why is just because of variance. Assuming every bet you are playing has an edge, which if you're using the positive EV page, it does, then more bets equals merrier and actually reduces your variance. If you place 2 bets, you could just get unlucky. It could land on tails twice at 45%. You lose both. You had a bad day. You place 10 bets, you flip that coin 10 times, it's much more likely to land in your favor because you're just giving yourself more bites at the apple. So those are 2 common questions I get. Hopefully that made sense. But generally, how I've made the majority of my profits with OddsJam, it's just from positive expected value betting. It's as simple as that. I track every single bet that I place using OddsJam. In order to track a bet, you just click the plus button, you enter the amount you bet, you click save, and it shows up. Or you just sync your sportsbooks, which I have done. So there's some that I don't even need to manually add. They automatically get added. But hopefully this video made sense. Again, I appreciate everybody watching the first video on my new YouTube channel, just dedicated to me. And then, would appreciate everybody, if you did enjoy it, like it, subscribe to the OddsJam YouTube channel. It will help me out a ton as I try to grow this separate channel outside of the main OddsJam one. Again, I'll still be very active on the OddsJam YouTube channel. Can't get rid of me that easily. Just figured it would make sense to have something for me personally as well. So again, like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff helps me out a ton. But that's it. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me directly. You can at my Twitter handle that I will post on the screen here now, Jedi Modi. And that's it. So again, I appreciate everybody watching, and have a good one.